Cardinals fans have to always get a little nervous whenever they see Kyler Murray wearing an A's hat. Just a reminder that this guy was a top 10 draft pick by the Oakland A's, and that option is always kind of lingering, and he's mentioned from time to time he'd like to do both. And there are times when they struggle and he struggles that I can't help but wonder whether he thinks maybe baseball would be a little better than all this adversity I'm facing. I'm not used to facing adversity. One place he doesn't face adversity is AT&T Stadium. 9-0 lifetime, dating back to high school. And they got it done again, 25-22. The victory over the Cowboys held them off late, get a much-needed win after losing 3 in a row. They have won 8 of 9 road games this year, the only road loss happening in, of all places, Detroit. And, the Cardinals were already in the playoffs, but, Mike, I think it was critical for them to reestablish themselves. They couldn't afford to slide into the postseason on a 5-game losing streak or losing 4 out of 5, if they somehow would beat and they should beat the Seahawks this week, but who knows? They needed yesterday. They needed, for their own confidence going into the playoffs, because they don't have much experience. And every big game they'd been in this year, they'd lost, whether it was the Thursday night game against the Packers, the Monday night game against the Rams, the Christmas night game against the Colts. They needed a game that had a big vibe to it. They needed to win that game to prove to themselves that they're not just going to fold when it's time to go to the postseason.
Oh, I 100% agree. Listen, I called that game Christmas night in Arizona, where the Colts started without both guards in their center, lost their left tackle for the game in Fisher, and lost Doyle, the tight end, for the game. It was literally the one defensive line against the second unit of the Colts, and the Colts still beat them on the road, at home for Arizona. We know they struggle at home. So they were a head scratcher. And I had said during the game and even before that while it doesn't have to be a ton more, Kyler Murray has to get more involved in the running of this offense. He ended up running, 9 times yesterday, averaging almost 5 yards to carry, a long run of 15 yards, but just a few more runs. How Josh Allen has gotten more involved in the running game for Buffalo. I think Kyler Murray needed to do that as well. Maybe he hadn't. Maybe the ankle had still been bugging him a little bit and they didn't want him to do it. I don't know. But if they're going to do anything, just like the Buffalo Bills, if they're going to do anything, they have to let their quarterbacks be the dual threats that they can be and just let them go. And you have to live with the outcome, and that's what Arizona's going to have to do. They are best. Kyler Murray's been having one of his best passing year, right? But the great thing about him is the threat he can be getting out of the pocket, either passing or running, and just kind of letting loose and doing his thing. So that's what he needs to do. If it's running 7 times, 9 times, 12 times occasionally, be that threat. And they were yesterday. And it's just amazing. You think, the Cowboys are playing great and the Cardinals are struggling. But again, this has been the year. You kind of reverse that, right? All of a sudden you reverse that and the Cardinals jumping out to the big lead in this one. And the Cowboys not having a running game at all, something they've lived off forever. And the Cowboys having 10 penalties, 4 holding penalties, another team complaining about the penalties that were called on them, double-digit penalties yet again. I think they have had their 4th game with that. But I agree with you about Arizona. They needed to have a game like this. And to me, Kyler Murray needed to get back to being that double threat guy. He always is, but even being more of that for them.
And that's one thing we need to remember in future years. When a quarterback suffers an injury, misses a little time, and then comes back, just because he's healthy enough to play doesn't mean he's the guy that he was before. We saw it with Dak Prescott, even though, guys are wired to not make excuses. So even though Dak Prescott wasn't the same for several weeks after his calf injury and he missed 1 game, probably because of the calf injury. Then you've got Kyler Murray and the ankle. You've got Russell Wilson in the finger, how mangled that was, and he missed a few games. And when he came back, not making any excuses, but he's clearly not the same guy that he was. Although yesterday, in what may have been his final home game in Seattle, better than he'd been. So let's just remember that. It's not like the guy is going to be exactly what he was before the injury. It's going to take some time, and it took some time for Kyler Murray. You mentioned the officiating issue. Here's DeMarcus Lawrence, Cowboys defensive lineman, being a little more candid than Andy Reid was regarding concerns about officiating in Dallas.
I think the results said that, we're still a good team. Even though we was facing two teams tonight, the results ain't come out like we wanted it to.
Who are the two teams you were facing?
I'm going to let the NFL handle it. I know, it's a possibility we see both of these teams in the playoffs. So, I'm just, hopefully the NFL can sit down with their team, review the film, learn from their mistakes, and get better from it.
Yeah, hey, that's a way to do it. And, players have a little more leeway when it comes to criticizing the officials than coaches do, so they can get away with more. It only crosses the line for a player if they start suggesting that you got a Tim Donaghy type of a situation or somebody's on the take in some way. But he makes a good point about maybe facing this team again. And when you consider that Kyler Murray's 9-0 all-time at AT&T Stadium, and the way it's sitting right now, we get that rematch in the wild card round. Cardinals, Cowboys, chance to go 10-0 at AT&T Stadium. I don't know at what point Jerry Jones starts trying to concoct a trade with the Cardinals, Prescott for Murray. But if this continues, if you can't beat him, join him, Mike.
It would be incredible if they did have a matchup, boy. But and we'll see how long that streak could go. I was a little surprised at this. We've seen Arizona play well, but I was kind of surprised at this outcome, especially the lead that Arizona got. I think it might be a different outcome, and if they meet in the playoffs. But again, more credit even to Arizona. Look who they did it without. They did it without 24 of their touchdowns, right? I mean, they did it out without 14 rushing touchdowns from Connor and 2 receiving touchdowns and 8 receiving touchdowns from DeAndre Hopkins, and still able to do it. So you got to do nothing but stand up and clap for them and give them a lot of credit for what they've done. What Kyler Murray can do at that stadium from high school on, pretty impressive. We'll see how long that streak can go, but it's going long enough right now. And I love what he just said there, as far as, because it's just what you say, coaches say to players. We'll sit down and we'll learn. We'll watch the film. We'll learn from our mistakes. So to talk about the NFL being the coaches and sit down with their players, the refs, and learn from their mistakes was a great way to put it, because you're not getting fined for that, right? It's not even coming close to crossing a line of getting fined. But what a great way to get your message across. That was phenomenal.
And it's a reminder that we shouldn't get numb to the fact that the officiating leaves something to be desired, and just accept it. I think there's a thought that you just deal with like injuries. Oh, well, it just happens. Well, we shouldn't have to settle for it. And there has been a push this year. It's died down a little bit, but the idea of full-time officiating where you have access to these guys round the clock all week long too, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. You're not dealing with your other job in your hometown before you pack up and go to your next NFL assignment. You're studying film. You're on Zoom calls. There's an obsession with consistency among the 17 crews. You talk about consistency in games. There's wild inconsistencies among crews. That shouldn't be there. All sorts of ways to be creative about being proactive in improving officiating. There's a lot they can do. You don't want big games to be decided by anything other than the performance of the players and the decisions of the coaches, and hopefully it won't be a factor in the postseason.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.